Hi, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Better Left Unsaid podcast with me, your host, Jessiara Marriott. This episode is a special one and one that connects with me for so many reasons. The statistics for Black women being much more affected in the healthcare system, specifically within the UK, is just ridiculous. And as someone who struggled incredibly during pregnancy, and after pregnancy, and feeling completely helpless against the numbers and statistics. It's thanks to people like Tinuke Awe and her community 5 times more and Mums and Tea that helps raise awareness on these ongoing issues. Tinuke is a maternal health advocate, speaker, content creator, and of course, mother. She is a social-led entrepreneur who is passionate about improving the lives of Black women and families. As the co-founder of 5 Times More, Tinuke has led groundbreaking campaigns that has massively helped in raising awareness in the Black maternal health disparities in the UK. She is a multiple business owner and ex-HR professional. She drives over a decade of corporate experience in learning and development to deliver impactful talks and impact change in charities and organizations worldwide, with features in BBC, British Vogue, and Sky News, just to name a few. She continues to drive these conversations in her purpose-led entrepreneurship through parenthood and neurodivergent advocacy. Above all, she is a proud mother and wife, inspiring others like myself to thrive whilst balancing all the responsibilities that we have. And don't forget, if you do want to get involved in this very important conversation, you can use the hashtag Better Left Unsaid to join in, because some things are better left unsaid, but not here. So let's talk about it. Okay, yes, I've definitely been thinking about it, and whilst I do think some things are better left unsaid, I'm just not about that, not at all. Hi everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Better Left Unsaid podcast with me, your host, Jessiara Marriott. Today I have an exciting guest. Tinuke Awe is a maternal health advocate. She owns an amazing charity called 5 Times More, and she does so much in the community to help Black women in maternal health. For the people that don't know you, how would you describe yourself, what it is you do for someone who's meeting you for the first time?
Okay, so thanks for having me on, by the way.
Oh.
How exciting. And how would I describe myself? I would describe myself as loud, bubbly, fun, mum, foodie. I'm just throwing out words that come to me. Mum, foodie, nerd, and connector of people and solver of problems. Yeah. And obviously maternal health advocate as well. Purpose-led entrepreneur under all of that. But yeah, all of
I
those.
love that phrase. I honestly love that phrase, and I feel like more people need to say it. It summarizes what you do so perfectly.
Yeah.
So, motherhood plays obviously such a massive role in what you do in your story. How did becoming a mum transform your perspective in the work that you currently do?
But well, becoming a mom changed my whole life, darling.
Mm, mm.
It did. It changed my whole life. And I just thought this is just like motherhood was just going to be a little blip, like a little, oh, okay, I'll have the baby, and after 1 year, I'll be fine and just go back to work and
Mm.
have a baby, and that was it. But
It's a lot more than that.
way more than that, way more. I would say, yeah, motherhood fundamentally changed who I am as a person. Um, and it's why I have literally all of the businesses that I have today. So Mums and Tea started as soon as I became a mum. Um, Mums and Tea, for those who don't know, is a social platform for mums to connect. We used to be mums and babies, but child, leave those kids at home. Okay, leave those kids at home. We finna have fun. Um, we want to have fun. We want to have grow. A lot of us now run businesses, are in our careers and stuff like that. And so I just find it really important to make sure we're still providing those safe spaces for mums.
Mm.
But yeah, forget those kids, man. Let them sleep. But also through Mums and Tea and becoming a mum and growing my network and speaking to people, I co-founded 5 Times More, which is a how would I describe it? 5 Times More is dedicated to changing, highlighting and changing Black maternal health outcomes in the UK. I would do this through a number of ways. So yeah, that's kind of how motherhood has changed my life, because it's literally
Mhm.
the businesses that I run today is because I became a mum.
Literally, I absolutely love it. And I remember when I first discovered Mums and Tea and Five Times More. I think Mums and Tea was first because I had my daughter in 2020, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I knew about this sooner because I was in such a terrible mind space, and I was like, there's no place for me as a young Black mother. So I'm so happy that you have this business, these businesses that you can now continue on and raise awareness on. But balancing motherhood with your purpose-filled work, how did you navigate the both and wearing all the hats that you have to wear as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and mother, and looking after yourself as well? How do you balance all of that?
I would say up until last year, I did not have any form of balance whatsoever. None. No balance, no structure, no nothing. I just, whatever was important, I did that, and then I moved on to the next thing that was important. And actually, that wasn't really helpful for me in the long run. So, running multiple businesses and also being a mum of two, like, and being a wife and being a friend and all the other hats we all wear, it can be quite difficult to what's the word? The the juggle, balance. As my good friend Toby, who actually wrote a book on this, the blend. It's difficult to blend it all together, and I wasn't doing it very well. I'll just be completely honest. Like, I failed woefully. Okay, not failed, not failed, not failed. On the outside, it's like, oh my God, but you're doing so amazing, and on the inside, I'm
Mhm.
like struggling, anxiety and just like
Yeah.
impending deadlines and getting really stressed out. And yeah, to the point where I actually quit my corporate job.
Mm.
So my son is autistic, and when we got his diagnosis, I was just in a bit of a rough patch, and I couldn't handle going to all his appointments. He was, you know, he needed a lot of support at that time.
Mhm.
He was non-verbal. He was still in nappies. It was just a lot to deal with a young baby as well. My daughter was only like 1 at the time of his
Mm.
diagnosis. So yeah, like I just couldn't do it all. So I had to, despite cost of living and everything, I had to quit my corporate job and pursue business full time so I could
Mhm.
be more at home and more flexible for my family, especially my son. Um, yeah, I don't know how. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm trying to find more of a balance
Mhm.
and a juggle to try and juggle it better, blend it better, as you will. Um,
Blend is the perfect word. I'm really happy you said that. I think the juggle, in all honesty, I do not think the perfect balance exists, especially when you're as career driven, entrepreneurial driven, you're excited about motherhood and diving into all of these different ventures. I don't think it exists. I don't think there's a perfect balance, and I don't think there should be. Not to say like you should do one thing more than the other, but it's just finding the flow of things, like you said, is so much more important than trying to juggle it all. Do not use stress.
as all women,
Mm,
I'll be completely honest, but especially us, because for all
yeah,
things health, we seem to be at the bottom of the rung of the ladder for all of the results when it comes to health.
yeah,
We especially do not need stress, and
yeah.
stress manifests itself in so many different ways in our bodies. And for me, unfortunately, it showed up in my health. So I
Hmm.
had to take a step back and be like, reevaluate everything and see what's really working and what do I need to, take a step away from.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
and everything has its season, everything
Hmm.
has its phase. It's like seasons of the year. Like, it's not summer all year round, it's not winter all year round.
Hmm.
So like, how am I adapting to the different seasons and phases that my family goes through, that my business goes through, that I experience, that my friends need me for, that my
Hmm.
extended family need me for, that my businesses and stuff. So yeah, it's really just about making sure you're okay,
Hmm.
literally, and then everything else can, you know,
Like flourish. Yeah, if because if you make sure that you're okay before your responsibilities,
yeah.
then everything will flow so much easier. Because if you're not okay, nothing else will be okay. You can't show up for the people that need you if you can't show up for yourself first.
No, absolutely not.
Definitely. So your transition from obviously being in the corporate world to being a stay-at-home mom and running your businesses, when do you think you had that extremely pivotal moment? Because obviously you were essentially forced into it because of your circumstances. So when did it become a thing of like, this is so much bigger than me. I want to do so much more. Like we can actually get this thing going. Like when did you start to see momentum with it?
So that's a great question, actually. And when I'm thinking back, I extended my first maternity leave with Ezekiel. I didn't go back to work until he was about 18 months because,
Mhm.
again, obviously now I know it's autism, but at the time I was just like, oh, I don't quite feel like confident leaving him yet. And yeah, I just didn't want to leave him. So at nursery. So we waited a little bit. Um, before we put him in. So that was kind of like my first taster of, okay, like he's over one now. Like I think I'm probably considered to be stay at home, but I don't know. And we just kind of figured it out. We made it work. But I went back eventually because we just thought it'd be good for him to be around other kids and stuff like that. So I think that was almost the catalyst for me knowing I could potentially do it, like to stay at home and try and make something of building a business and raising my family. So come, I think what, 2021 by this point, Ezekiel was about three or yeah, about three. And I had my daughter. And yeah, it was time to go back to work after the second maternity leave with my daughter. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I think I can do it. And then within that period of time, Ezekiel got his diagnosis. And then it was like, boom, speech and language, this, occupational therapy, that, this appointment here, GP, this. And then I was juggling that. At the time, my daughter wasn't in nursery because it was still kind of lockdown, kind of, there weren't spaces with nursery and stuff like that. So she wasn't in nursery. So I was working the corporate job with my 1-year-old daughter literally hanging on my leg and having to take breaks to take my son out of nursery. Obviously, my husband was working full time. So it kind of, because I was working from home, it kind of all fell on me to do all of this. So I was like, yeah, you know what? No. No, I just couldn't do it. And I felt like I just really needed to be there for him at that point
Mhm.
in time. So that's kind of what made me, like you said, I was almost forced into it, but I was like, hey, I've got these other side businesses because at the time, well, Mums and Tea and Five Times More were both
Mhm.
kind of side hustles at the time, that I can try and make work. Let's see. But my family is the most important thing at this point in time.
Mhm.
So let's deal with that and then figure out the rest later. So that's how I kind of had to make that decision.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think with hmm, because motherhood in itself, we can honestly make a whole separate podcast episode on becoming a mum, but what made you want to start Five Times More? Because obviously you had Mums and Tea first. How did Five Times More come about? Was it your personal journey? Was it, hearing things on the news and through friends and family? How did that push and want for you to create a charity cater to us start?
Absolutely all of the above. So
Mm,
I had a bad experience giving birth to Ezekiel.
mhm.
Because I was running Mums and Tea, I was listening to so many other black moms reporting their birthing experiences and being like,
Yeah.
something's not right. Something doesn't really quite add up. Like, what's going on? Why are we all having bad experiences? Like, it was rare to hear someone say, "Oh my God, I had such a good birth." Like, and you know what? You know what mums are like when you get together and you're all new mums and everyone's so excited. So, oh my God, what was your birth like? What was your birth like? Everyone always spoke about their birth. So I think I was in quite a unique position to hear what everyone was saying month in, month out, regardless of where they were in London, because we actually managed to um extend from being in South to East London to North London, and then the pandemic hit. Thank you, COVID. But like all across London, people were like, yeah, like it wasn't just like a Southeast London thing or South London thing. Everyone was experiencing this. So I was just like, what gives? What's going on? Um, so that and the news in 2018, so that was obviously the year after I'd given birth,
Mm,
and hearing, collecting this anecdotal data, it was like, oh, we're
mm,
5 times more likely to die. that figures. I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke to my mum, just to try and get like, all right, get a sense of how was it like. I've never spoken to her about like it's your mum, innit? You don't really speak
Mm-hmm.
about. Oh, so how was it like when you gave birth? Like it's not a conversation that really comes up. But I asked her what it was like giving birth to me and my siblings, and she broke down in tears
Mm.
because she recounted the horrible experience she had, and it really pushed me and moved me to want to
Yeah.
do something about it. So thank God I had the network of Black women, Black mothers, and that's how I connected with my co-founder, Chloe. At the time she was running Prosperities, which is a maternal mental health organization, and she was working in a hospital at the time,
Mm-hmm.
in maternity wards. So I was like, oh, we could be the
Perfect.
big mouth. You know what I mean? Like I've got the big mouth and the social media and the moms. You've got the health professional kind of
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like, why don't we have an event? And I wanted it to just be an event, but God had literally other plans.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do the event. We ended up just building an organization, and here we are. We're in our 6th year this year, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it came from my experience, hearing others, seeing it in the news, and just
Mm-hmm.
wanting to do something about it.
I honestly, when I first came across you, I broke down in tears. Like I cried. I cried and cried. I'm not really much of a crier. I don't really cry, but I cried. And that was from the A, the impact that you have on the community, and B, the want to push it and to yell and to scream on the rooftops and just say, like, this is what we need more of. Like, this is not fair. Why do we have to, not even come out of our way and do this, but why does it have to be so difficult for us to be heard? But we know that the statistics of Black women being 5 times more likely to die in childbirth, that's a thing.
Mhm.
So why do you do what you do? I know it's such a general question, but what drives you to continue doing this, even with so much backlash and there's not much progression in a lot of ways, but you see it firsthand. You've spoken at Parliament, you've met with MPs, you've done so much more than, a lot of us would ever dream of doing. But what is it? What is it that really pushes you to keep going?
What pushes me is a great question, by the way. What pushes me to keep going? It's a few things. I would say, first and foremost, my daughter and all of our daughters, they cannot be campaigning for the same thing
Hmm.
in 20, 30 years should they ever choose to give birth, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because, like I said, when I was doing my research and when I spoke to my mom and she broke down, I was like, wow, like this cannot be a generational thing. Like, the buck stops here.
Hmm.
I was looking at the data and actually it coincides with when she gave birth, like back in whenever. I don't know my age. No black don't crack. Whenever, when she gave birth to me,
Hmm.
Black women in the UK were more likely to die. They just didn't know how much because they weren't collecting ethnicity data, but they knew this is a thing.
Right.
We're talking 20, 30 years, right? Something in between that, maybe a little bit more. Um, but we're talking, some high numbers for decades. It's not new
Hmm.
information. So I'm like, okay, well, something has to change because
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'll be damned if our daughters are campaigning Black women in the UK.
Right.
Like, what is that? So I think that's a huge motivator for me. But also it is a God-given vision.
Hmm.
Like when I was gonna start it, I clearly heard God saying, "Do this,
Mm.
speak to Chloe, do these things, and we'll see where, just see how far it
Yeah.
goes." And he stuck to his word, like quite literally, because like I said, like between 2019 when we started in 2020, we were, like trying to raise awareness, doing the whole like social media campaign thing, and we just wanted to scream and shout, but the way it catapulted and the way, we got 187,000 signatures in a week for it to be debated in Parliament, and since then it's just been a kind of upward spiral.
Yeah.
It can only be explained as God and
Hmm.
being obedient. So I think for us, it's definitely, being obedient to that very clear calling, and just having a passion to serve our community. That's why I keep going. I love mums, I love mums. I love Black women.
Mm.
It's been my thing for the last how many years? How since I've been a mom,
Yeah.
it's been my actual thing. Like Mums and Tea is where it kind of, the genesis of it all. And
Yeah.
hearing all of those stories, I was like, I can't hear this and not do anything, and also
Hmm.
have my own experience and not do anything. So yeah, like I think those are a good few solid reasons as to
Yeah.
why, when it gets hard, when the funding doesn't come through, when
Mm.
people are stealing your ideas, when when it just seems like, like there's just no way out,
Yeah.
I always revert back to my why, and
Hmm.
I've got a good few reasons as to why we need to keep going.
Definitely. I think for the women that can't entirely relate on the other side of the spectrum, on the other side of the community, what is one thing that you would say to them, or just to people in general who can't really understand the struggle and the anger and the upset that we hold as Black women? What is one thing you would say to them that would help not just raise awareness, but help the conversation continue beyond our community?
Well, we rarely get pushback, which is a good thing, because you have to understand something. The data does not lie.
Mm-hmm.
Data is facts, right? And the data has been telling us, been painting a very bleak picture
Mm-hmm.
for Black women for the longest time, not just in maternity, outside of
Mm-hmm.
maternity as well. Like we're talking cancer, fibroids, all of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? We seem to be, like I said, at the bottom of the rung of the ladder. So we don't actually get much pushback, which is good.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing we always say within the campaign is, because some people will be like, well, white women have bad experiences too. And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has ever, in running 5 times more and speaking about the work we do and everything we do, we have never said what we say to negate anybody else's experiences, right? We know the state of maternity in the UK across any race is
Mm-hmm.
terrible. But just imagine how terrible it is for Black women who have this higher statistic when it comes to,
Right.
anything in maternity. We're talking stillbirth, we're talking miscarriages, we're talking morbidity, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
mortality, right? Um, so I guess it is that powerful work, allyship, and what you
Mm-hmm.
do with that is really important. Like you don't have to look like me in order to care about the things that affect me,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest misconception in Black maternal health is not even Black maternal health, just as Black women, is that we're strong and we can take whatever happens to us. And
Mm,
I've learned, especially with my own health issues, that complying with that and agreeing with that does just as much harm than good. So,
mhm.
what is the biggest misconception in Black maternal health that you think isn't widely discussed, especially in the UK?
I think those stereotypes are very, very
Hmm.
damaging, especially the one being strong, and
Hmm.
that's deep, it's
Hmm.
historic, it's embedded into the medical system, and
Hmm.
it's scary, to be honest. Even the history of gynecology, and when you look at things like this, like Dr. James Marion Sims and the Spit Sims speculum that that, well, not you guys, but like medical professionals use within vaginal examination still to this day. If you look at the history of that, someone that's called the modern godfather of gynecology, and the horrible things he did under the guise that Black people don't feel pain, Black people are strong, and all of these horrible stereotypes, those things still exist, because at the time he was writing this into medical journals. This was a very popular view at the time, and you would think, oh gosh, slavery's ages away, gosh, like this is like ancient history, but it's not, because as early as 2006, 2016, we have data telling us that white medical students are less likely to administer pain and believe all of these very same stereotypes. They're strong, Black people are strong, they have thicker skin and less nerve endings, and they're less likely to. This is now. This is not like this is like happening now. It's not like 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So, yeah, I think that those stereotypes very, very damaging. And what healthcare professionals need to do is to take the individual in front of them, right? Don't make any assumptions. Just look at the person that's in front of you and take them as a human being, right? Understand where this person is coming from,
Hmm.
but don't make any assumptions based off of their skin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the stereotypes really do play a huge part in what we see.
Mhm. In not just maternal health, like you said, across the board in every single industry, definitely. But besides that, you have been incredibly successful in my eyes, and I'm sure to other women as well. You've had the opportunity to speak in Parliament. You've been featured on multiple media platforms like Vogue and BBC. But what to you has been your proudest moment in your continuality to fight for change?
Oh, that's a good
Because
one.
you've done
I'm
so much.
I know. I'm looking at my shelf, and actually, in the new year, what we did, we cleared. I said to my husband, "Clear that shelf. I'll put all my awards on there." I'm like just looking at all the awards that we like gathered over the years, that we've won, that we're so proud of. I want to say, yeah, it's the awards, but it's not. Yeah,
Mm,
it's the recognition. It's the going on TV. It's the all.
mm,
That's part of the job. That's part of raising
mm,
awareness. That's one part.
mm,
Raising awareness because you can't change something you don't know about. That's just one part of the job.
mm.
The other bit is actually changing the stats, right?
Right.
So the stats since we've been going since 2018, 2019, sorry, it's gone down ever so slightly to
Mm,
2.9 times. So it's no longer 5 times. It's actually 2.9 times.
mhm.
We shouldn't take our foot off the gas though. It's whilst it's something to be celebrated because we all lives that are not lost. Obviously, it's a family.
Yeah.
It's a mother. It's a wife. It's a sister. Um, but actually, because the rate, like I said, the state of maternity is terrible at the moment. The rate of white women dying has gone up, so it just makes it look like the rate for black women has gone down. So
Yeah.
whilst the statistically speaking, yes, but actually numbers wise, no. So we still have a lot of work to do. For me, what is important is the actual physical, tangible things. So for
Mhm.
instance, if you if you're in Southeast London and you are going to have a baby, you will be um I want to say gifted, but it's not really a gift. You'll be given
Mm,
one of our Black maternal health wallets, our colourful
mm,
birth wallets, um, which is basically where you will store your maternity notes.
mhm,
And the other day, quite literally the other day, so the kids have gone back to school, and there's a children's centre right next to where my kids' school is.
mhm.
And in there, funny enough, it's where I had some of my antenatal appointments as well. But in there is um is where some women take their appointments. And I saw a woman coming out and she had the wallet.
Oh.
And for me, this is it.
Mhm,
That's it. She could go home, maybe she's on the bus, or maybe she's just doing something and she's like, oh, what's this? Who's 5 times more? Oh, let me check them
mhm,
out. Let me scan this QR code. Let me see what they're about. For me, that's real change
mhm.
because you can't put a price on any of that. So, yeah.
That makes me so happy to hear. I knew you were going to say something like that because the type of person you are, you're so you're warm. Your energy is warming. And I don't know if I think it's because you're a mum as well, and just the way you go about everything you do, besides being a mum, besides being a content creator and everything like that, you're just so inviting. So that answer is, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you wasn't gonna say the awards or speaking in Parliament or BBC or Vogue or anything else you were on. I knew it was gonna be the impact that you have towards the community. But besides that, you know that advocacy work, and I'm learning this as well, starting my advocacy journey, it can be really emotionally draining. So, how do you protect your mental health whilst also pushing for change and being a mum at the same time?
I had no structures in place before, as I said,
Mhm.
and I really struggled, especially with the type of work we do. And somebody said to me the other day, I have an available face.
I do see that. No, I
I
do.
have an available face, which means for me, people come and just talk, and I'm here for it. I love it. I do, um, in the right context, of course, but I'm here for it. And I've forgotten my train of thought. I'm so Um, yes. So because of my very cute and available face, I often I hear things and I hear unfortunate stories.
Mhm.
I hear people's experiences. We can be doing our work and then boom, get sent an email that is just somebody's harrowing experience and they need help and they need support and it can just throw you off, right? Because you want to help, you want to support, and it's a lot to do with taking on
Mhm.
other people's trauma, listening to that all the time. And I didn't realize how much of an effect it had on me, as well as rehashing the account of
Mhm.
giving birth to my son day in, day out to allow people to understand why I started, but why it's so important. Um, I needed to get therapy. I
Mhm.
have no shame in it. I have a first class degree in psychology, right?
Mhm.
There goes the Nigerian in me. I say that to say, like, I'm no stranger to understanding the importance of making sure you're managing your mental health and
Mhm.
getting the support that you actually really need, right?
Mhm.
But I wasn't doing the things at the
Yeah.
time, and I really, really struggled for it. So I had to put those boundaries in place. I had to, go through therapy.
Mhm.
I've now got more of a structure in place, more of a routine. I'm doing the more things to help with my mental health so that I can cope and I can best support other people. You can't pour from
Mhm.
an empty cup. And for a long time I was really running on empty. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, we're in a better flow of things now.
Yeah. No, it's back to what we were talking about before. If you don't show up for yourself, you can't show up for other people, you can't show up for the work that you do, and you can't wear all the thousands of hats that we have to wear. But when it comes to immediate change, when it comes to Black maternal health, what is one thing you would like to see in the healthcare system? I think besides the numbers going down completely,
Yeah.
don't know if that's ever going to happen, honestly, with the current state that we're in, but what is something that you would like to see happen that is a semi-realistic change, and how can we help with that?
Better data collection.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you, per trusts in hospitals, so some NHS trusts will have two or three hospitals attached to them. And
Mm-hmm.
those two or three hospitals might not even collect data the same way.
Uh,
Okay. It You're only as good as the data you have. So
mm-hmm.
if you don't have the correct data or you're not collecting maternity data based off of ethnicity,
Mm-hmm.
how can you even begin to change things? But for me, it just doesn't. I'm not really a numbers girl, but I like facts. I like data. I like stats. I
Mm-hmm.
like figures. If you like, we know five times more because they collect the data
Yeah.
across hospitals. They don't do that. So there's been some recent maternity scandals that when you ask, right, so how many of this is black women? How many of this is? Can you break this down by ethnicity?
They
They
can't do that.
can't.
They can't do it.
How
Mm.
can you begin to change something you don't even know by the numbers
Mm.
exists. You know
Mm.
it. You know it exists anecdotally. Sorry, couldn't get that out. You know it exists anecdotally, but you're not actually collecting the data. And we know one thing we know about the NHS. If they've got the data, then they can start setting targets and start putting the necessary things to get those things changed. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not even collecting the right data in the first place,
What are we supposed to do?
like
Yeah. Hmm.
if I had the power to just do one immediate tangible thing, let every hospital at least just collect the same data, and don't let people, like, don't allow midwives or health professionals to guess. So like
Mm,
I could be Caribbean by marriage to a Nigerian.
mm.
So I could be, I don't know, Jessiara, I don't know, Babatunde, right? I would think that, okay, this is probably a Nigerian, but actually you're Caribbean, right?
Right,
So don't even don't let let people self-select
right.
as well. Don't allow the health professionals to guess because they
Hmm.
can get it wrong.
Hmm.
So yeah, just standardize data collection, please. We're in 2025.
Mm. How can we help ourselves in our journey within the healthcare system, whether it is, we're postpartum or we're pregnant? How can we help ourselves? How can we speak up? What are some things that you think we should know going forward when it comes to just our health and speaking up and advocating for ourselves?
Okay, so we've got one of our first ever resources was our 6 steps. So I'll
Hmm.
go through. Well, I can't remember. Gosh, I haven't done this in a while. It's not just related to maternity, and it's not just related to Black women, right?
Hmm.
Anybody can use this. So the first one is to speak up, because we know a lot of people, maybe white coat syndrome, or we've grown up in most of us have grown up in like black household where it's like, no, the doctor knows better, the medical professional knows better. Actually, no, you
Hmm.
know better, you know your body
Hmm.
better. So actually, if you feel like something isn't quite right, speak up. That's first and foremost. If you feel like you can't speak up, then make sure you have an advocate to speak on your behalf, right? Make sure you have somebody that's kind of clued up about your situation, that can also maybe speak on the times where you feel a little bit vulnerable. Seek a second opinion. You're allowed to do that. Legally, you're allowed to do that. If you
Hmm.
believe your health professional is what's the word I can say to stay nice and politically correct? Um, if you believe that you are not getting through to your health professional, you can absolutely ask, okay, who's the matron in charge? Can I see another doctor? I believe through X, Y, and Z. I'd like to work with you, but actually, I don't believe you're believing my symptoms. So, can
Hmm.
I speak to someone? You're well within your legal right to do that. I think sometimes we have to realize they're not the enemy. As much as, I know the NHS is stressed, I know everything is like difficult and all of that. They're not the enemy. Sometimes they actually just might not know because they've not been trained,
Hmm.
especially on women's health issues, especially on like issues, matters of like dark skin and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So if you believe they just don't know, you can seek a second opinion. Um, the other one is document everything. So as well, so if you have an ongoing issue, or you're going into your appointments, you know, make sure you're jotting everything down, and
Hmm.
noting that it's in your medical notes as well, or your maternity notes.
Hmm.
Because yeah, if you ever need to come back to them, you need to be as up to date as possible. So those are the ones I can think of for now. They seem very basic, and but actually, if you're putting them into practice,
Hmm.
you should be able to be a little bit further along in terms of the advocacy journey. If you've just never had to, if you've never done it before, or you didn't
Yeah.
know you needed to, yeah. So those are a few kind of things that you can do.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I will make sure I leave down below every single resource I can find regarding this, as well as where everyone can find you. But on a final note, what is something you want to leave the audience? Just a positive message, because I think this topic can be very dark and it can be very sad. However, I want audiences listening and watching to walk away from this feeling empowered. So what is one thing you want to leave the audience members with?
Um, One of my favorite sayings is that your voice is never too small.
Mm,
Like, don't ever think, oh, I'm just a young black girl from Southeast London. Like, who's going to listen to me? Well, so am I, And I can honestly say, like, through speaking up, we've been able to achieve so much to
hmm.
help other people just because we had the courage to speak up. So,
Hmm.
your voice, no matter your background, no matter where you're coming from, no matter how old you are, is never too small to make a change.
I love that so much. I love that. I feel like I should write that in big bold text on the screen. Oh my gosh, Tinuke, you're so incredible in all that you do and in all that you are. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I'll leave down below where everyone can find you, Five Times More, Mums and Tea. If you are looking for a support group, wherever you are in the UK, Tinuke and Five Times More and Mums and Tea is there to support you. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to see what you do this year. I know it will be big. I know you will be changing the industry, and you are the one and only one that can be doing it. And that's all I can say about that.
And that's all period. Okay. We are the original. Okay. It's